The New Jedi Order series had been a massive undertaking. 19 books written by 12 different authors, published between 1999 and 2003. And reaction at the time had been mixed. Some people loved the New Jedi Order and were all in on the story it told, while other readers weren't so keen about the developments that unfolded, the kind of villains that the Yuuzhan Vong were, and how very different the New Jedi Order ended up being to the Bantam era novels that preceded it. So in thinking of what should come after the New Jedi Order series, Del Rey and Lucas Books decided not to have quite so epic a tale. Instead, they decided on a 9-book series that would be written by 3 different authors, allowing each author to write 1 hardcover and 2 paperback releases. But did you know that the Legacy of the Force series originally wasn't going to be set post-New Jedi Order, but was imagined as being a Old Republic era tale instead? When a 9-book series was first proposed in 2004, it was originally intended to be set in what was then called the Sith era, which spanned from 25,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, at the time of the founding of the Republic, to the end of the Sith Wars 10,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. It was unknown when exactly in the era the series would take place, but on the official StarWars.com forums, Sue Ristoni said, "Shelley and I, and the authors, will be reading through all the comics and other material to decide where in time to set the series, and what, if any, existing characters we want to use." However, that idea quickly changed, because about a month later, Ristoni posted on the forums thread, "Hi, I haven't read all the pages of posts, but there's been a change. We've reconsidered where to set this 9-book series and have decided that the Old Republic era may not be the best place. We're now seriously considering post-New Jedi Order, something like 35 years after A New Hope. The thinking is that there is more opportunity here for substantial storylines using characters that people already have feelings about, and the outcome wouldn't be known at the start of things. We still want to play in the Old Republic time frame, and we'll try to get a trilogy there." That Old Republic era was very popular at the time, as the first Knights of the Old Republic game came out in 2003, and the second in 2005. But perhaps there was concern about conflict with the existing video game content. Or maybe the authors that they proposed the series to were more interested in the post-New Jedi Order era. Who knows? By the time of Comic-Con International in July of 2004, we had the announcement of 2 of the 3 authors, that Troy Denning and Aaron Alston, both of whom had written stories in the New Jedi Order series, and Troy Denning had also written Tatooine Ghost, while Aaron Alston had written some of the X-Wing books, would be writing the Legacy of the Force series. And that Legacy of the Force would follow sometime after Troy Denning's trilogy, which became the Dark Nest trilogy. And by September of 2004, we had that 3rd author. It was confirmed that the writers of the Legacy of the Force series would be Troy Denning, Aaron Alston, and Karen Traviss. At the time, Karen Traviss was not just a relative newcomer to Star Wars, but a relative newcomer of a novelist as well. Her first non-Star Wars novel came out in 2004, and then the first Republic Commando book also came out in 2004. Traviss was heavily interested in the Mandalorians and the clone troopers, and so while the Republic Commando series allowed her to focus on what she found so interesting about Mandos and clone troopers, you can bet that Mandalorians are gonna find their way into the Legacy of the Force series as well. With the working title of Sith Rising, the authors brainstormed what would unfold in Legacy of the Force, and what they decided on relies heavily on our knowledge of the prequels, in that we see Jacen Solo's fall to the dark side. The Darkness Trilogy by Troy Denning saw Luke and Leia learning the identity of their mother and also seeing some key events in their father's life leading to his downfall. And there was a fair bit of setup done in the Darkness Trilogy to show that Jacen sympathizes with Anakin, that he feels like Anakin was just trying to protect his family, and that's perfectly understandable. So the Legacy of the Force series in turn became Jacen's own fall. What would contribute to someone who at the end of the New Jedi Order series seemed like the New Jedi Order's best hope and most promising young Jedi? What could cause him to fall, and what could contribute to an outcome like that? But Jacen doesn't fall entirely unaided, and the three authors scoured the previous books and comics to find a villain who could contribute to Jacen's downfall. And no spoilers, but this individual dates all the way back to the Marvel era comics, and was someone that I think readers really never expected to show up in print. The Legacy of the Force series ran from 2006 to 2008, ending with a climactic ending in Troy Denning's Invincible. So then James Luceno's Millennium Falcon in 2008 was a step away from galaxy-wide turmoil and is more of a fun adventure on the Millennium Falcon as Han learns about the ship's history. But Lucas Books and Del Rey were not done with the idea of a 9-book, 3-author series. So in 2009, we saw the release of Fate of the Jedi. Set 2 years after the end of Legacy of the Force, it is Luke Skywalker and his son Ben on a galaxy-wide journey of discovery. The working title for this series, after all, was Star Wars Odyssey. 2 of the authors remain the same, Troy Denning and Aaron Alston, but Karen Traviss was switched out for another female author, Christy Golden. Traviss had a lot on her plate working on the Republic Commando series, and after 2009, she would quit Star Wars entirely because of big changes that happened to Mandalorian history thanks to the 3D animated Clone Wars show. Christy Golden had published a number of novels, a lot of them World of Warcraft stories. And unlike with the Legacy of the Force, this time all of the Fate of the Jedi books were released in hardcover, and it ran from 2009 to 2012. And unfortunately, there's not very many stories after the Fate of the Jedi because of the acquisition of Lucasfilm by Disney. We saw a surprise 10th X-Wing book, Mercy Kill by Aaron Alston, come out in 2012, and Crucible by Troy Denning came out in 2013. Just barely squeaking it in there before Disney acquired Lucasfilm in 2014, and has Luke and Leia and Han off on another adventure, and surely would have set up even more stuff to happen if, again, Disney hadn't rebooted everything once they purchased Lucasfilm. So my memories of these books are not super good, particularly because I really didn't read a lot of these. When the Legacy of the Force series started to be released, I was in college. I was really picking and choosing what Star Wars I wanted to read, but I was interested in something about Jaina and Jacen and Ben Skywalker and that generation. So I read the Legacy of the Force books up until Sacrifice. And if you've read Sacrifice, you know that a very traumatic event happens. We lose a beloved character. And that was enough for me to decide I didn't want to finish the Legacy of the Force series. I was gonna kick them to the wayside and only really check back in when there was a new Timothy Zahn book. So I never read Millennium Falcon. I never read Fate of the Jedi. I read X-Wing Mercy Kill because I was super excited about a new Aaron Alston X-Wing story. And I feel like despite not knowing what happened in that series and the Fate of the Jedi at all, I could still follow along pretty well. And I just didn't read Crucible because, again, I hadn't read the preceding books. So I'm very interested to see what happens this time around. Will I want to rage quit after Sacrifice again? Will I find things to appreciate about these books that I didn't the first go around? And in fact, will I get to experience things that I've never experienced before just because of the fact that I missed out on these when they were released? More so even than my reread of the Prequels books or the New Jedi Order series, I expect this one to be a whirlwind adventure, and I think my emotions will be all over the place. So, in 2023, I will be rereading the post-New Jedi Order books set after the Dark Nest trilogy that were released between 2006 and 2013. That includes the Legacy of the Force series, the Fate of the Jedi series, 3 standalone novels, as well as some related short stories. So, welcome, and I will see you back next week with my review of the first book in the Legacy of the Force series, Betrayal, by Aaron Alston. So what you can't see during the video is that I had a little buddy keeping an eye on me down here while I was talking about books. You didn't want a cameo tonight? No, that's okay.